So we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last day of 10 days of Microsoft Fabric. It's really been an exciting learning journey, where we put our consistency to test. Not just about consistency, it's about the community coming together to learn. Just before we get started, yeah, I have to start with my glasses. Okay, yeah, done. I think I can see well now. I can see your face right there. So hello, everyone. Please do engage wherever you're joining from in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from, and thank you for joining us today. It's been a long time of talking about Microsoft Fabric without really seeing what it is or what it looks like. The learn modules have practical as exercises, which we're happy about. But today, we also want to show you, something really exciting about Microsoft Fabric. I have with me special friend and colleague and co-laborer in the community, in person of Francis Folaromi. Hi, Francis.
Hi, Ola. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Nice to have you guys here.
It's good to be able to put face, to the voice. People have been hearing, listening to us over past 9 days now. They hear about Microsoft Fabric every evening as we gather, in Lagos, Nigeria, on Twitter space. But today, you can hear our voice and you can also see us. So, trust me, it's going to be exciting. You're going to learn a lot. You have a lot of questions. We're going to get them answered and show you what is possible and probably help you and launch you into the next phase of this learning journey, which is practical, getting your hands dirty. Okay. So just before I, sort of we start today's session, let me pose some questions to Francis. Francis, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I think my name is Francis Folaromi. By training, I am a pharmacist, but by practitioner, I am a data analyst.
See,
So,
honestly, we should stop from there for now. You mean a pharmacist, who is doing this amazing thing with Fab? Oh my God, where are other people? Can you see? This is really interesting. Please go ahead.
by training, I'm a pharmacist, but by practitioner, I'm a data analyst. So, interestingly, I actually discovered I have interest in data in my final year in school. So, when I was in school, I had to use SPSS as against a traditional project that my colleagues use to enter the lab, doing pharmacology, testing drugs on animals, on humans, getting samples, and all of those things. But in my case, I had a special project, and that project eventually won the project in pharmacology. So I had to do SPSS. At that point, I could not afford to pay somebody to do the statistical analysis for me. So I had to challenge myself with the help of my lecturer, by the way. So I watched some YouTube videos. I was able to do SPSS by myself. So I didn't have to pay at the end of the day. So that's how I realized that okay, this is something I really like. Was that then I didn't even know what I was doing was data science really. I just knew I was enjoying what I was doing. So during my 1 year compulsory internship, I realized I needed extra cash. So apart from the fact that okay, I'm being paid by the federal government, I wanted extra cash. Then I started reading on the internet. Then I came across data science. I said, what's data science? Then I read more and I thought, oh, what I did then in school is actually data science. So then I enrolled and then I started taking a lot of trainings. I defined the path I want for myself. Oh, data scientist, data analyst, data engineer. Like everybody, I've been among the three roles when I started out before I now finalized the part I actually want for myself. And so when Fabric was announced, I was really excited that, oh, there's not a platform where we can actually collaborate and do all of these things. So, and there's no way you collaborate with other people in the data space, be it an engineer, a scientist, that is not going to rub off on you. So I was really excited. That's why I actually buried my head deep into Fabric.
Awesome. Well, this is really exciting to see. While I was on campus, I did statistics, so I learned how to use SPSS. I even made money, analyzing project, and I could realize,
I'll
the
probably have paid you. We are in the same school.
amazing, amazing. So, but you see how your passion and understanding the value of data and being able to analyze it really set you up to learn all the things you need to learn. And today you are right there. You are one of the champion for Microsoft Fabric. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining. I see Adegun Lanre watching here in Italy. Amazing. We really appreciate this. Of course, people are joining us from several places all over the world. please feel free to, share your thoughts, make the comment section really exciting, because I'm going to be spotlighting every activity, everything, that you all are sharing as you are participating in this. Okay, so that's good introduction about who, Francis is, and today he is that fabric champion. We are so proud of what he has been able to do, and he's going to walk us through some things. Okay, so for me, I'm Olarinwaju Oyinboke, and in case you don't know, today I've been through several roles, but I call myself a, what should I call myself now?
Data,
I
data
happen to be,
generalist.
exactly, I happen to be a data generalist because I've played a lot of roles across the value chain of data. But today, I currently work as a senior cloud advocate at Microsoft. I'm very big on community, and that's why you see doing this kind of thing, to reach more people so that they can learn as we're learning. Fabric is new, but some people can get good grasp of it very fast. And I think the Fancy is one of them. I'm one of them. And what we can do rather than intimidating others is to create this avenue where all of us can co-learn, co-share, and co-build solutions together, where you're all, comfortable and learn about this technology so that you're not left behind. So that we can also keep this short. I'm going to be posing some questions as we continue this, but I'm going to switch this over to Francis, who will take it up from here to say, Francis, what would you like to share with us in the next 30 minutes? Give us an hint.
All right, I'm going to just share with us an end-to-end project that I've actually completed with Microsoft Fabric, detailing the data engineering experience, data science experience, and of course Power BI. So all of this is what I'm going to show us how I move from the data engineering experience to the Power BI experience, and finally to the data science part. Even though I'm not a data scientist, but I could use AI to get some code. Since I have a fair understanding of it, then I was able to do a project using all these three experiences right there on Fabric, and it was actually easy. Anything you can do if you pay close attention to, I'm sure that you can recreate it in no time.
Wow, amazing. So I'm going to pass this over to you, and your screen is being shared now, and take it up from there.
Yeah, Ola, confirm if you can see my GitHub page.
Yes, yes, we can see it.
All right, so good evening once again, everybody. So, this is actually the overview of the project I want to use to demo what we can do with Fabric. It's actually a stroke prediction project where I'm going to deploy a machine learning model called SVM, which is support vector machine. So, it's going to walk through the data engineering, data science, and then the data analysis experiences of Microsoft Fabric. So, right on this GitHub repository, you can get the link to the data set. But this is just the project architecture. So I'll try to minimize my browser so that you can have a complete feel of the architecture. So on Microsoft Fabric, there is something we call One Lake, which is the universal storage. That is where all the data assets in your tenants will be sitting. And then on right after you have your One Lake provision with your license, you don't have to do that every time. It comes by default with every tenant. Then you can create your workspace. So for this particular demo, I'm just going to create a workspace and call it 10 days of fabric, because we have had 10 days of fabric where people have been reading the modules of Microsoft Fabric. So I will name my workspace, and then right on the workspace you can actually create a lakehouse. Lakehouse is another sort of storage that is being powered by Apache Spark technology, so which is for processing large data sets. So on that lakehouse also you can then provision it, and then you can store your data in a data format. And then right from data lake, you can then create your pipeline, that's your data engineering workload. And then from your pipeline, you can use it to orchestrate your data into your lakehouse also. Then right from your lakehouse, you can create your data model, which is the Power BI experience of it. And then also you can go ahead to make your realization. And also from the lakehouse, you can continue and open a Spark notebook where you are going to write your codes and queries to actually build your machine learning model. So just to keep this short and straight, I'll just navigate to my Fabric environment now. So to get to Fabric environment, it's either you use app.powerbi.com. If you use this route, it's going to take you right into Microsoft Power BI service, or you can use app.fabric.microsoft.com. That will take you straight into Fabric Fabric experience. So if you get to Power BI experience first, then you can actually switch to any of the experiences. You see this logo right here is showing us that we are right on Power BI experience. So if you click on this, then you can switch to any experience that you are actually interested in or you want to work on. So we have about six experience right here. The last one is the data activator that is still in private preview. So you can then choose your experiences. So don't forget that we have a project architecture that we are working with. So right from there, the first thing we want to do now is to create our workspace. Now you come to workspaces and then you can create a new workspace. So I'm going to give my workspace a name, which is going to be um, 10 days of 10 days of fabric. So then I can click on apply. Then right there, my workspace will be created. So when a workspace is created, it's definitely going to be empty. Now you can actually click on new and see the various artifacts of Power BI that you can actually upload. Power BI, because we are currently on Power BI experience. So if I switch my experience to data engineering experience, for example, then the objects that I can create inside of my workspaces will be different. So now I'm on data engineering experience, I can create a Lakehouse, which is part of the asset that we are going to create for this particular demo. Or you can create a notebook or a Spark job or a data pipeline. You can even import a notebook, or you can actually use a sample asset that you have by default in your Power BI. So before I continue, I had completed this project, so I would just like to show us all the assets that we are going to be creating for this demo. So this is I remember our project is stroke, so we are going to be getting a lake house. Now you notice that we have a tabular form where you have the name of the asset and then you have the type indicating the particular type that your asset is. You see that we have lake houses, we have data flow gen 2, we have reports, we have notebook, we have pipeline, and then we have experiment. So all of these assets are going to be created in this demo, of which some of the assets are for data engineering, some are for data science, and then your report is actually your Power BI experience. So let's go back to our workspace that we have created. So now the first thing you want to do according to the project architecture is that we architect the workspace. So we want to create a lake house now. So on the lake house now, you switch to data engineering experience, which I have already done. So I can then come to my lake house, then I click on lake house. So I want to call my lakehouse fabric 10. So then I can click on create. So once that is done, typically if you are working on Azure environment, you know you have to create your resource group, manage resource group, and all of those things. But with Fabric now, you can actually use few clicks and then you have your lakehouse created. So inside of your lakehouse, you have these following experiences. You have your data flow gen 2, your pipeline, your notebook, and then your shortcut. Shortcut in a means when you are trying to connect to an external source, or you are not moving your data set from wherever it is. Say, for example, you are trying to copy from Amazon Redshift. So you are just going to create a link that it can actually be like a representation between the actual source and then the lakehouse that you are working on. So in our case now, what we are going to create now is actually a data flow to actually clean our data sets, and then we can then move it into the lakehouse. So to get started, you click on get data. So you still have essentially the same thing, or you can go this route. So I'm going to select a new data flow gen 2. So that will open up a Power Query online interface. If you are familiar with Power BI, and of course, you know there is Power Query, but there is also Power Query online that has been integrated as part of solution for Microsoft Fabric, which is actually a very powerful combination when you use it with data flow. So that is taking few seconds to open up. So let's just wait for the Power Query online to open up. So once that is done, we can then work on Power Query like you work on your Power Query desktop, where you can connect to several data sources. So right here we have our Power Query interface. So you can go to get data where you can have various data sources, or you can even check for more if this is not solving any of your sources that you want to connect to, you see that there are several sources that you can connect to. And I'm sure with time, more connectors are going to be added that you can actually pick from. You have your files, you have your uh, databases, you have your fabric asset, which is completely new. You can connect to Power Platform, any of the Azure services and storages, online services. Then you have others. So in our case now, the file we are working with is actually a CSV file. So I'll click on import CSV. So once you click right on that, then you can then navigate to where your CSV file is located. You can either provide the link to where it is stored. Let's say it's on OneDrive, you can get the link on OneDrive, or you can even upload from your local machine where you just click on browse and then you upload from wherever location that is happening. I'm not going to do that because I had actually uploaded it before. So I'm just going to get a link from OneDrive and then I will select the file I'll be working with. So I'm just going to click on this now. Then it will open up OneDrive storage for me so that I can select the file I'll be working with. So Power Query. Now every file that you upload will actually be saved in a folder like this. So these are some other files that I work with. Remember I said we are working with stroke dataset. So I select the dataset I'm interested in. Then that will actually load up into Power Query online. Then you can then work on whatever transformation that you want to do. Sorry, a minute, please. So after selecting it, then you expect that your Power Query online will be populated with the data set from the CSV file. So that is taking some seconds to load. Then you have a preview based on the first 200 rows, and you click on create.
To
So
be
right there
honest,
on
this is really interesting because looks like the same Power Query we have on desktop, right? But this has
yes,
some bit more capabilities to do, to load data into a particular source, which we don't have
yes.
in Power Query desktop. Amazing.
So you from now you can pick it up and start doing your data cleaning. Every transformation that you can do on your desktop, they are all here. For example, people that are familiar now, you may be looking for your merge or your append. Is you can find it right here under combine. Either you want to do a merge or you want to do a append query. Now, the only thing that is actually slightly different with Power Query Online is the fact that you have to specify the destination of your data flow. So you click on add source, add to data destination, either from this place or you can do that from here. So you can click on add data destination. So our destination is actually a Lakehouse, don't forget. And if your destination is actually Azure SQL database, you can select it or any one that is your use case. Our use case now is Lakehouse. So you select the Lakehouse. So once that is done, then you click on next. Then now it's going to give you a list of all the workspaces that you are created. Okay, at this point, I should mention that you should give your project meaningful name so that you know the exact place you are going. These are all the workspaces that I have in this tenant. So I had created a workspace for us for this demo, which is 10 days of fabric. So I can select that and then I can then see the name of the lake house that I had given fabric 10. Don't forget the folder is actually the workspace and then the cylinder representing the database is the lakehouse. So I can then select fabric 10, which is the lakehouse that we are going to be working on. So I can click on next then. So don't forget in real life's case, you have to do your data cleaning. So when you click on next, you get this interface where it's going to ask you if it's an is a new data or an existing data. So if it's existing, I'll just do replace, but if it's new, it's still going to append it to it if there is an existing data. So I can do replace. If it's replacing and there is nothing there, you are still safe. So you can see you have a column mapping that is happening here where you have the sources, these are the sources that has been picked from the CSV file to the destination. So this is doing the schema for you. And then of course you can see the data type. You can scroll down and see the other ones. So sometimes we are working and probably you did not name your column header very well. You may get error at this place, but you can actually just with a click resolve it and then it's going to give you the appropriate name. Say for example now, I'm using dash for residence type. not an underscore. It's going to pick an error, but you can just click on fix it, and then automatically it's going to change your dash to your underscore. Then you can then save your settings, and you exit your Power Query interface. You see that after we specified the destination is grayed out, and then you can see um, the destination specified here also. Said you are actually made a mistake, that you are taking it to a wrong lakehouse or a wrong workspace. You can click on this J icon right here, and then you can change whatever destination you want to take it to. So I won't do that so that we'll save time. Then you can put it in the right workspace and in the right lakehouse. So I'll just click on cancel. So to save time, I will just close this now. So your data flow will be created, which is this. So you can just click right here. Typically, when you create a data flow like that, it will just give you data flow as the name. Then you can click on this ellipsis sign and then go to properties. Then you can change the name to whatever name that you want. So in our case now, I'll just leave it at stroke data flow. So after a data flow is created, you still stay on your data engineering experience. So now this stage now is very important if you are working with multiple sources. Say for example, now we had created a data flow asset and you want to do another copy activity that you want to transform, but the data set might be too large for Power Query to handle. So you can do your extract load and transform, or extract, transform and load, depends on the one that suits your use case. Now, I should mention that when you create a lake house, some assets are also created automatically. Remember, the one I created is actually Fabric 10, which is our lake house. But every lake house comes with a SQL endpoint. So as we go further in this demonstration, you will see what we use SQL endpoints for. So SQL endpoint is actually going to give you that interface where you can write your SQL query to query and explore your data set, and then your data set right here for your lakehouse, and then all these staging lakehouses to also come by default. So the next thing I want to do now is to create a data flow, a pipeline rather. So I will still stay on data engineering experience and then click on new. Then I can then select a new pipeline. I can select a new pipeline. So on my pipeline, I can give it also a name. I can say is a Fabric Pen pipeline, and then I click on create. So this is going to open up a new interface for us where you can have access to the UI of Azure Data Factory, which is a data integration and orchestration tool. So that will open up for us. A pipeline essentially is a collection of activity. It could be a copy activity, it could be a data flow activity, which is what we are going to be using in this case now, or it could actually be a a a, a notebook activity. So now this is the interface. You can actually add a pipeline activity using this, or you can copy. You can do a copy activity, or you can even use templates. There are templates that comes by default, so you can see how easy it is for you to actually work with Microsoft Fabric. So if I click on choose a task to start now, it's going to give me several templates that I can use to actually integrate and orchestrate my data set. However, you can define any template that you want for yourself, and this is called data engineering workload. So I can do a bulk copy from a database, or I can even use this copy files to database. I can copy from ADLS Gen 2 to Lakehouses. I can do a delete activity of file older than 30 days. So these are templates that you can start with if you actually suit your use case. When our use case now, what we want to do is actually to create a data flow activity. So just a brief overview that we have right now. We have the home tab, we have activity, you have run, then you have your view. So this view is just to align after you have created, then the activities, to list all the activities that is available. You have a copy activity. Now you can copy by adding a copy activity to your Canva. So this will give you this dialog box. But before I go on with this dialog, let me take it out for now. You can also use a copy assistant. So that copy assistant is going to open up various data sources that you can have for you, just like we saw in Power Query Online. These are sample data that you can use, COVID-19 data, New York taxi, diabetes, public holidays, and then these are all the sources that you can actually um, connect to. So you can connect to any of these sources to create your copy activity. So let's say, for example, now let's connect to this diabetes data set, a sample data set. So after you click on it, then you move to the next line, which is connect to the source. Then you can see that you have a diabetes data set that is trying to be previewed. So once that is done, you can click on next. Then you can now choose your destination, just like you did in Power Query. Also, you can choose whatever destination that is appropriate for you. So in our use case now, you can even choose a lake house, and then you can click on next also. Then you can select the specific lake house that you are going into. Because you are in this particular workspace now, the only lake house we are going to see is Fabric 10. So you select that, then you click on connect to destination. Then you can give your table a name. You can say diabetes, for example, and then you click on review, and then you see that it's giving you the interface that okay, this is your source and then this is your destination. Then you can then save and run. So it will give you a copy activity. For sake of clarity, you can actually rename your activity to a suitable name, say diabetes. So you have that selected, then you click on, you give it a name. So after you have given it a name, you see you have other icons here where you have your source, you have your destination, you have your mapping, then you have your settings. So now we are currently on general, then the source has already been defined. You see, we have workspace. Your source could be another workspace or it could be an external source. Then that will open up the copy assistant again. So if I click on new, so you can have your copy assistant and all the services that you can connect from to do your copy activity. So now you see it is giving us one in red to show us that you have not specified the source you are taking, you are getting your data from. So I'll keep it as sample data set, and then which has been selected. So then you select your destination, then you do your mapping and all. So for sake of time now, I will just duplicate this now. So let's say we have another activity, we have a copy activity, and then you can also create a data flow activity. So I will select this now, then you create a data flow activity. Then you can say that it is after your data set has been copied, then you want to orchestrate the next action that should be happening. So now from our copy activity, you can see there are little icons right in front of each card here. We have this arrow that is saying on skip, on success, on fail, then on completion. So these are the parameters that will define what will happen. So you can use anyone that suits you. So if I use on completion, I can drag it and link it to this data flow. So that means that once this is complete, then this one should actually start running. So I can also add, let's say, a notebook activity right here. So let's say I have done some data cleaning with my data flow. I can say that, okay, if this is successful, then it should continue and go to a notebook activity. So after you have defined all your data orchestration, then you can actually come to your home tab where you can do a validation. So if you click on validate, it's going to show you if what you have done is right. It's going to tell you have specified your data source, you have specified your data flow, and all of those things. And if the validation is wrong, it's also going to give you a red warning that okay, maybe you didn't specify your destination or you didn't specify the data source that you are coming from. So you do that, then you can click on save, and these are save icon. You can click on save, and then you can then run your, so it's giving us a warning because I had not done my validation. So this is validation now, which has been done. Then I can then save it. Then after saving, then I can then run it. Now it's giving us error because I did not specify anything for most of our activities here. So now another thing you can do from here is that you can actually schedule your run activities. Say we are working with a data set that will be refreshed at any interval that the data set will be coming, then you can then schedule your refresh or the frequency that you want. You see, if you turn it on, then all of this will now be You no longer be grayed out. You can specify the start date and the end date. So you can actually schedule the refresh. I'm just doing all of this to show you what is possible. So but I had created my data flow for this particular project, which is a stroke data flow. So I'm opening that up right now. So this is our stroke data flow where I had actually specified the data flow that I had created, and then I can then move it to the Lakehouse. So that will open up right now, and so this is a data flow that I had created. So you see that I had given it a meaningful name. So from general now, I can say data flow, which is stroke data flow. Then I select that. Then I'll click on my validation. Then validation, it has been validated. Then I can click on run. So if I have other activities, then it can run together and then it will move every data set in the form that I want. So this activity they are called a pipeline. Several activity, copy activity, data flow activity, notebook activity. So after that is done, then I can come back to my workspace. Then I go to my lake house. So remember that the name of the lake house now is stroke lake house. So this is the lake house. So once you have done the data orchestration and integration from your pipeline, then all the data sets that you are moving or you are copying and transforming will be actually saved within your lake house. So the data set is coming up right now. So on this lake house now, you can see that we have the name of the data set called stroke, and this is the preview showing us the first 1,000 rows. Then there's a little icon here, which is a triangle icon to tell us that the format of this Lakehouse is actually a data format. So you can actually click on this ellipsis here to open a notebook if you are going to be doing data science part of the experiences, or you can rename it or you can delete it as the case may be. And the interesting thing about Lakehouse is the fact that you can also add unstructured data into your Lakehouse. You can upload new file. So you see that we have tables and then you have file. So on your file you can do click on this, then you can create a shortcut or you can upload from your local computer. So now you can see we have other icons. Say you still want to get more data sets, you can always go back and specify where you are getting your data set from. Is it from a pipeline or is it from a data flow? Or you want to now do your Power BI data set. So you can just hold on for now. Now I had mentioned earlier that when you create a lakehouse, it is a SQL endpoint is created together with it. So you see that the pipeline that we run is successful, and that was the notification that we got. So now from here now you can switch from the Lakehouse view to the Lakehouse SQL endpoint. So you see you can just click on this, then you go to your SQL endpoint to query your data set. That is going to give you SQL interface where you can then query your data set. So interestingly, the solution by Microsoft is so robust that if you are not comfortable with this SQL interface, you can actually connect to your local SSMS, and then whatever thing that you are doing local SSMS will actually be saved on your lakehouse, even on the cloud. So now this is our table. There is stroke and then there's another stroke. Because I had run the pipeline before, now it is running the second time, so I have stroke 2. So now this is stroke 1. You can see just like you have your typical SQL database, you have your functions, you have your store procedures, you have your views, and then you can set up the security and then the system tables that you can see on the typical SQL. So let me just quickly do a brief overview of the interface now. You can write a new SQL query that is going to give you where you can write your SQL query. Then you can do a visual query. And this is where it gets interesting in the fact that even if you don't know how to write SQL, you can actually drag and drop anything from here. So if I drag and drop this table now, is just going to generate the query for me. So if I drag this and drop right here on this interface, oh, I guess that's our network. So it's going to just load up the query for me, and then I can see the SQL part of it. So, but I want to save time now. Okay, so this is it, and then you can actually combine it with other tables. Say I have another table now, say I have stroke 2 and I want to do a join, for example. I can also drag that and put it right on here. Don't forget that we are still on free trial, so error like this are bound to happen. So don't worry about it. Just continue with your work. Then I can do a merge here with this icon. So I can click on this, and then any of the merge or transformation that I want to do is possible. So if I select this particular table now, I can even generate the SQL right here. So you see the SQL code is automatically generated for me. I can edit it. I can do anything I like whatsoever. So I can edit it and do anything I like. So if I do a merge, then I'm expecting to get a transform query. So for the sake of time now, I had prepared the queries for this one. So this is, let me show you this visual query. Okay, let me just go to data modeling query. So the first thing I want to do, I wanted to see my table. Then I can do a simple select statement to fetch information about my table. So when the result is out, you can visualize the outcome of your SQL query. You can save it as a table, you can download it as an Excel file, or you can even save it as a view. So if I click on save as a view now, then it's going to write the SQL query for me, create a view, and then the SQL statement right after I have defined the name of the view I want to create. So I can type the name of the view here. So those are the things that are possible. So I had explored the data set, then I want to see the count of the IDs of the data set I have. So if I run that, I'm doing a select count now. I can see that I have about 5,110 entries. Then I wanted to do my data modeling because I know that I'll be doing data visualization. So I just wrote a distinct select query. Then let me run this first one for example with a case statement where I'm saying if the gender is male, then give me one. If it is female, give me two. S, give me three. And then I give it a name. Now, to save us time, I did that for every dimension table because earlier we had seen that we have SQL queries that are actually in text. And don't forget that we are still going to the data science experience. And when you are doing your machine learning models, the machine only understand numbers. So that is why I'm trying to change them from text or string to integers that is understandable for my machine. So now this is the query. You can see, let me just give us more real estate now. You see all the columns of the query and all of that. So then I also know that I want to visualize it. So that was why I wrote queries for the modeling. So this is the query for the gender dimension. I did the same thing for hypertension. Then I did almost the same thing for all the comorbidities to add diseases, also for stroke. And then I did it for their marital status, their work type, using case statements. So after I had specified that, because I know I was still going to do machine learning model, I then save each and every one of these dimension table as a view. So you can just do a drop down here where instead of having to write any of this query, you can just easily come to your view. So these are all the views that I had created. So I can then see what I have in this particular view as against having to write the query. So these are all the tables that I had created. Then next thing is that I can then come to modeling. I had shows the query, which was where we are coming from. Then modeling. So when you click on modeling interface, then that will give you uh, the modeling that you have in Power BI desktop, for example. Now these are all the data set that I have in my lake houses. So, but I know the ones that I want to use, which are the views that I had created. I created a view for my, let me just zoom in so that we can see better. I created a view for my facts table. Then I created the views also for my dimension table. Then I can leave the original data set, which is in text. So I then created the dimension table. Now you understand that star schema is the best thing when you are doing your data modeling for obvious reasons, and then you can have your DAX simpler, your performance simpler. In addition to the fact that we have a direct lake mode, which is very new. That is why if you over on any of this table now, you will see it showing us direct lake. You see the storage mode is direct. Previously, before Fabric, what we have is import mode and direct query mode. So why you want to have the speed of your import mode and also the capacity and the space of your direct query. You can't have the two at the same time. But with Fabric now, there is direct lake mode that combines the two, and then you don't have to worry about slow reports when it comes to direct query, or you can do some certain things when it comes to import mode. So these are the views, and then you can do your modeling. You know how to do your modeling. You can just drag any of the keys. For example, now this from fact table, from our stroke fact table, there is a model between diabetes status key. So you can just do your drag and drop. You can drag your status key to status key right here, and then your model will be created. You get this interface where you can specify one to many, many to one. We know that the best thing to have is one to many, or one to, or many to one, depends on the case. Or and then the next thing is the direction of the filter. We should also go for a single direction. So you can do your confirm, but because I had done that before, so I won't bother doing it. Then the next thing also that you can do is that you can actually write your DAX here. So to write a DAX, you can click on new measure. New measure. So if I click on new measure now, I can then just start typing the name of the measure. So I'm writing a measure for the number of patients that we have. So I can do patients equals to a distinct count. So all your DAX function will come up here. So, but I think this is still a bug from the trial. So I'll start again, and then I'll type patients. Then I can do equal to then a distinct count of the patient. Then I know that I have a patient ID. Then I can look for the ID, which is the stroke ID. So I can do ID, and then I can close my bracket. Then, but because I had created this, let me just put another S to differentiate it from the one from before. So then you can just click on enter, or you can click on this little check icon here to commit the measure that you had written. So now after you have completed your modeling, then you can then use that to create a report. You can use that to create a report. So you just click on new report, and then you get the interface where you do your data visualization. You see we have moved from data engineering to Power BI experience. Then you can now do your visualization as the case may be. So not to waste time, I had created um the report before. So I'll just navigate to the report that I had created from this data modeling. So these are the assets. So this is the report. So I'll just open up the report right now. So this is the report right here that I had created. I did the exploratory data analysis as against trying to do that uh in my notebook, or writing Python codes to do that. So I have about 6 pages where I did demographic overview, and then dimensions that I had created. I use them. So if you are doing it from scratch, you get this interface where you can just do a drag and drop, and then you can create a visualization. For example, say I'm creating a donut chart now. I can just put the patient measure that I had created on the values, and then I can put the gender on the legend so that I can have a visualization of that. So this is how to create it. Then you can then format and do your decluttering so that your chart is very neat. And then when you are done with your visualization, then you can just click on this little icon here, and then you can save. However, I should point out that you cannot have some functionalities that you have on your Power BI desktop, like you have on Power BI online, but you can just use it for your basic visualization. But the interesting thing is that you can always connect your SQL endpoint to Power BI. So, but the challenge I have with that is the fact that we talk about one lake where we are talking that it is going to be eliminating the data duplication or data redundancy. So, if you are using your SQL endpoint to connect to your Lakehouse on Power BI desktop, then there is a question that you'll be faced with. That is the question of which mode are you going to use to import your data set? Is it a direct query mode or an import mode? Before you even get to that question, you know that you should not be doing that because you are already duplicating your data. Because when you publish your reports eventually from Power BI desktop, you know that it's not just the report that is published, but also the underlying data sets. And then the advantage of speed will already be eroded from from your report because there is no direct link inside of Power BI desktop right now. So you can then save your report and then you move on. So this is the report that I had created, so not to waste time. Written measure for patients, their average age, the glucose level, which is an indicator if a patient is diabetic or not, and then their average BMI, which is also an indicator if a patient is obese. So I have all of these charts to just show all of these things. Then we have mobilities overview also, where you can see, okay, this is a certain number of patients that have stroke, those that have hypertension, then those that have heart diseases and other comorbidities. If they are smoking, then there is heat map and correlation. Instead of doing your code, I'm trying to see if there's a relationship between their age and their BMI. Then I created a bookmark so I can do correlation between many variables. So I did for glucose and BMI, and I can see that there is a slight correlation between them. So this is glucose and BMI. I can use my bookmark to change it to glucose and age, or age and BMI. So you can check that correlation and see if there's any relationship between these variables. And then also you have your heat map, where you can see the distribution of the patients and those that have stroke. So that is that. And then you have the biomarkers and the demography, those that have uh, the age range, the gender, the glucose level, then those are all the EDAs that are possible. So for the sake of time now, I will go back to the data science experience. So now when I had created the notebook, so if you want to go to your data science experience, you can just switch here and then you click on data science. So once you click on data science experience, you can actually uh, create a model, or you can create a notebook, or you can even import an already prepared notebook, or you can use a sample data science workload. There is some codes there that you can make use of. But in our case now, we are actually going to be creating a new notebook. So I will create a notebook right here, and then it's going to give me this interface where I can write my code. So the first thing you want to do after you created your notebook is that you want to add your lakehouse to your notebook, so that the notebook knows the data that is going to be interacting with. Don't forget that is the same data set that we had used for our data engineering. In That's the data set that we moved to Lakehouse that we use for our Power BI experience. Now we are going to data science experience, where you can then add that same Lakehouse and the same copy of data set to your notebook. So I can click on add now, and then if it's an existing Lakehouse or if it's a new Lakehouse. But because we had created a Lakehouse, so our option is still existing Lakehouse, or you can choose a new lakehouse. So if you click on new lakehouse, then probably you have a data set that is already cleaned, or you want to do your cleaning inside of your notebook. So I'm not going to be doing that because I had created the notebook earlier. So now this is the interface of your notebook. You can save your notebook, you can download your notebook into all of these formats, into notebook format, HTML, Python format, and the latex. And then on the edit also, you can see you can save your saving option to be automatic or manual. Undo, redo. Then you have your copy cell, formats, moving your cell around, and then you have your run. Is that you are running all the cells, or you are running individual cells, all the cells above, and then you can schedule your run, or you can even add a pipeline. Don't forget, pipeline is just a collection of activity: copy activity, data flow activity, delete activity, or you can even add parameters to your activity. So for sake of time, I'll just go back to stroke notebook, which is the one that I had done earlier. So what I did was that I had added the lake house to my notebook. You can see now that when you add your lakehouse, you have your data sets right within your notebook. So for first timer, you can over on this and then you can click on load data. So that will open up a Spark notebook for you. So if I click that, it's going to create a new notebook, a new cell for me. So you see, this is the cell that was created by me doing that. So I can run this and then I'll see the data set that I have. Now you can do this and change it to the limits that you want. So I think it's still running because I'm launching it for the first time. So that will take a few seconds. So starting the session now, then once it's done running, then you can see a view of the data set showing the first 1000 columns. So then you can also change the language that you are comfortable with on your notebook. Right now we are on PySpark, which is a flavor of Python and Spark. You can change it to a core Scala, Spark SQL, or how, depending on the language that you can use. So, but we are using PySpark. So that will show us the notebook, and then this is the outcome. So I'll just delete this cell now so that we can focus on the notebook that I had created. So because I want my data set to be in numbers for the sake of machine learning models actually understand numbers alone. So I just copied the SQL query that we wrote earlier from here, which is the SQL query for data modeling. So this is the fact table. So if you let me minimize this output view so that we can see the SQL query very well. So these are the SQL queries. They are mostly case statements just to change them to numbers. It's the same SQL queries that I used to create the SQL view. So this is the query for the fact table. So I just copied this entire SQL query, and that's the beautiful thing with a Spark. You can even write your SQL even within your Spark. So I copied that, then I bring it to load my data set into my notebook. However, you cannot paste it using several lines. When you are pasting your SQL query, it has to be in the same line, then double quoted. You see that I have a quotation here, so it's a lot of work. Just have to make sure that they are on the same line, and then after you have tested that your query is running the right way, so you can paste that right here, then you close the quotation, and then you close the bracket. Then you can then click on run. So once you click on run here, then you can get your output. You can even export your results either to a CSV, JSON file, or XML, which is extended markup language, and then you can visualize it. You can change it to a chart. So you see, you can just change it to a chart, and then you can save it as image, JPEG, PNG, or SVG. So you can change your charts. You see that that chart is automatically created for us. But I'm not creating any charts here, so let's just keep it. So we load our data set into our notebook, then we run that, then you get this output. Then right after that output, the next thing is that I want to switch from Spark data frame to Pandas data frame. We know that we are on Spark Notebook, but the machine learning model I'm building is going to be on Pandas framework. So that is why I need to change from Spark framework to Pandas framework. So this is the code to just do that switch. So you write this, and then you actually run that. So you get this output, and then you can then display it now in Pandas. You can now do everything and interact with your data set with your Pandas library. So you see that we now have it in Pandas. It's just the same outcome, just that this is now in Pandas framework. So the next thing you want to do now is you want to import the necessary libraries for your machine learning model, and then we are using SVM, which is support vector machine learning, and all the model selection to train and split your data set. Then you can do your feature engineering right here. Don't forget, what we are trying to do is to predict those that are going to have stroke with respect to the comorbidities that are existing. We have hypertension as comorbidity, we have diabetes, that is glucose level, which is the pointer to diabetes, we have heart disease, then we have smoking, that's their lifestyle, and then we talk about their stroke status also. So you just extract your variable, extract the features, and then target variable, then you do your feature engineering. Then after that, you can then split your data sets into your training set and your test set, where you have your test set to be 0.2, which is about 20%, and then your training set is going to be 80%. Since you know that this is 20%, then you can then call in your SVM classifier, which is the model we are actually going to be using, and then you train the model using uh, the training set, and then you run it. Then each time you run them, you get an output. Then finally, you do you predict. Let me just run everything so that we can appreciate it. So I'll do run all, then it's going to run all the cells for me right from the first cell. Then I'll do that will be run, each cell will run, and then you can get the outcome. Then you can get this, they are still all running. Then at the end of the day, I got accuracy of 0.95, which is 95% for my model. Then if you want to continue from there, you can then test the accuracy of your model, or you can even use the experiment that is actually by native in Fabric to see your experience. Typically, this project does not end here. After you've done your model, then you want to print the outcome of your model and see those that are actually going to have stroke and those that are not going to have stroke. You see, the accuracy is 0.95, which is 95%. So, dear friends, we've been able to move from data engineering to Power BI and eventually to your data science experience. Thank you, Ola. Thank you,
Wow.
everyone.
Wow, that's what a stretch, for the last couple of minutes, like 35 minutes. Thank you very much for all that you've shared with us today. Francis, this is really exciting. I used to say this: until you start doing it, you will not get to know how to, you not get to understand this better. And the goal of showing you this is, for a very long time, we've been doing this as audio recap of what is this, what is that. And today now, this is a demo that is showing you these are the things that is possible, guys. Not just there. Now it is time for you to start doing it. In case you have one or two questions, I want to spotlight your question. Please go ahead, and put your question out there so that we can spotlight it. I also want to mention that we have a link right here where you can join our Fabric community on Twitter. It's a community now where all this content, all these things will be there. So if you have questions, please go ahead and ask your question. We will definitely answer them. If someone is asking what next after this, our advice, go back to this video, just use that to understand the interface and maybe try out things. We've also shared in the chat area the link to Francis repository where it documented that project I did a walkthrough on. And more also, we will be putting out projects, but before that project, more resources for you to land on. Francis is working on his YouTube channel. Please, I want you to support once that channel is live. Let's give all the support. I'm creating some video content that also guide. We can have a lot of, as we continue to have all this guide, all this content, there are more information available for you to use and to consume, and that way you can truly grow your knowledge. And I want to say a big shout out to my team. A lot of everyone that have supported this program, since we started. I want to say very, very, very big thank you. Shout out to you, especially the host and the co-host of this engagement, which permit me to share them, Francis, Faith. I'm trying to share my screen so that I can maybe share that, which I will do shortly. Francis, Faith, I really appreciate you guys. I can't thank you enough for the belief, for the trust and the support and all the effort. Faith is right there in the chat area, making sure that all questions are answered, making sure that, welcoming you, onto this show. I really, really appreciate. So if there are no questions, we're going to call this a day so that you can fall back to this. Okay, we have a comment here which is saying, lovely presentation, Francis. And I must acknowledge, awesome. He has that trait. He's a good teacher. Just following through alone, you can master and get to know all these things that Francis has been teaching us today. So, okay. Good job to you. Okay, thank you. Good job to me as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate. Okay, so I think this is the screen I wanted to share so that you can also have it out here. Thanking all, everyone that have participated in this. The host has always been Francis, Faith. This is our Twitter, and you can follow us right on Twitter. and you can still land on to take your 10 days of fabric by going right there, to that link, aka.ms/10 days of fabric. You see the Cloud Skill Challenge we've set up. Make sure you complete yours. Others are there on the leaderboard as well. Okay. We're going to end there because there are no questions. The challenge continue. Good job. Good comment from everyone. Thank you. Okay. We'll fall back to the community on Twitter. So bye for now.
Bye.